Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, thank you for clicking on another video. Today we're going to be hopping into my books I read for June, my June wrap up for everything I read in June. I really need to do my wrap up for everything I've watched for the past few months as well. I haven't done one of those in a minute. I've been really focusing on books here, but I'm going to be doing that too. I watched a lot of great stuff recently, but that's beside the point. We're going to be talking about books that I've read for the month of June. I had a huge TBR, which I did not get to all these books. I will let you guys know that, but I'll show you guys my stats and all that stuff for June, tell you the books I read, how I rated them, and just give you the 411 on everything I read and what you need to be picking up and reading next. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you enjoy it by the end, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this, definitely think about subscribing to the channel. And without further talking, we're going to hop into the video. First, let's look at my June spread for my reading journal. I absolutely love this theme I did. I didn't choose any specific book or like series theme as far as for my spread this month. I just did like a very classy type of theme here, just using a bunch of little scraps of things I had and like little transfers and things that went onto the paper really nicely. So it's kind of like a spring, summer, old style to it, which I really love, and just using like scraps of paper to get this kind of theme and color, and just, you know, tape, marker, really got really creative, and I really love the way this looks. So this is my June spread. It doesn't really match with June because it says spring, but you know, it doesn't matter. And I put everything on here, all of my stats and things. So I had a TBR that had quite a few books. I figured because it was June, not going to be working, going to have the month off from work because I'm a teacher, I would get a lot more read. Yeah, pretty much stuck to how much I usually read, and that is about 6 to 8 books, and I read 7 books. So the ones I did not read, I'm just going to move those over to July and, you know, try to read them in July. So I read a total of 7 books. 3 of them were physically read, 2 were audiobooks, and 2 were ebooks. So pretty evenly spread, which is pretty typical. 0 DNFs, although there was one that should have probably been. And I did not do my days read little part on this correctly. It was supposed to be just circle the numbers as I'm reading, like whatever days. So if I'm read 5 days, just circle up to 5, but I was confusing myself. So I think I've estimated I've read about half the days of this month, so about 15 days. Yeah, and I didn't post that many books, book videos on my channel, maybe between 2 to 3, I think, maybe, I don't remember. Anyways, let's hop into the books that I read. So first book that I finished this month was the book Later by Stephen King, which I thought I do have it. It is right here, Later by Stephen King, and we started the month off strong. This one I gave 4 stars. Basically, this one, it was published in 2021, and very short little book by Stephen King, and it's more of a horror thriller, more thriller than horror, honestly. It's labeled as kind of like a horror, but I would say this even more is a thriller crime with elements of horror, and it's a little dash of fantasy as well. So I rated this one a 4-star or a B grade with my grading system, giving it a grade of a B or B plus, and I finished this one the 2nd day of June. I really enjoyed this one. It took me like a day and a half to read this because it's very short, and I was really enthralled with the story actually, and I don't know why I was not, you know, ready to read this one. Actually, even though Stephen King is my favorite author, I didn't want to read this book for some reason. I felt like this was not going to be I wasn't going to like this, and I actually really did. So what we're looking and following is the struggling mother, Jamie. This struggling mother has this son named Jamie, who is born with this unusual ability to see the dead, and he this kind of gets him into a bit of trouble. At first it's kind of like a harmless ability, but then he starts to see these more malevolent evil evil ghost, and he gets involved with this wrong spirit, and also this woman who his mother had been dating. She really starts to kind of becomes like this antagonist as well. And so it was really good, and all of these things start happening. They become dangerous for this young boy, And I really, really like this one. It kind of follows him from when he's like super young to when he's a little bit older. And then it's like his older self that's telling the story of his younger self, what happened to him when he was younger. I really liked it. It was fun, dark, horror thriller, very quick read. And it's Stephen King doing what he does best, which is writing entertaining stories. So I would recommend that one. The next one I finished is His Hopeful Bride by Bella Brown. This one published also in 2021, reading a lot of recent books. Digital book, so I read it on ebook, and it's a historical romance. I gave this one a 3 stars only because I was meant to have finished this one quite a while ago. Actually, it just didn't really grab me all the way to the end, and I just ended up finishing it in June, even though I had started it before. We're basically following this young woman who follows in the footsteps of her friends and becomes a mail order bride. She's tired of the woman she works for. She works as a maid, and she hopes that this is the right decision for her as she follows to marry this man that she doesn't know really. And her and her new husband start to hit it off really well until she sees that he's hiding something, and so we don't know what he's hiding, and that's what we're following. Good book, good enough romance, but nothing really spectacular, kind of a typical mail order bride one. And I've read so many of these ones this year, I'm kind of maybe burnt out on them a little bit, but yeah, there's nothing bad about that one. Next I read, oh my goodness, hey, yeah, next book, when I say bizarre, not in a good way bizarre, Daughters of the Wild by Natalka Burian. I picked this up from my library. It's a library book. I need to return it very, very soon. I had to redo it because it was way overdue. But this one published in 2020, so past few years. Very short little book, 304 pages, and obviously I read it physically. And I was excited to get something else from my library. I love to go to my library and buy things, check out books. And the cover pulled me in right away. Beautiful cover. Love the cover. And the synopsis pulled me in. So basically we're following this group of kids that are all foster siblings on this farm, and they're taking care of this mysterious vine, this plant called the vine. And there's a lot of like secretness going around this vine, and what the purpose is of this vine and why they're taking care of it so meticulously. And there's like some magic, kind of like, not real magic, but like, what is this new term? Speculative fiction, or, realism magic? I don't know. Something happening in the story where the girls in the story have this kind of like special ability to help the vine. I don't know. And there's also a boy in this, and it's just, it was so bizarre. Very dysfunctional family, adoptive family that adopts all these kids. Very abusive, so triggers for that. Several of the kids are just very young, and they're just being taken care of by these people, basically to be glorified slaves, to take care of this magic vine. And one of the teen girls gets married to like the head family of this like system they've got set up here, and she ends up being pregnant. She's a teenage girl, young girl, pregnant, has a baby young, and her husband ends up dying, and she ends up back at her adoptive family's home with this new baby. But she kind of defies the head family, and suddenly her baby goes missing. And so she's looking for her baby. She's trying to find her baby, and that's where we come up into the story, basically at the beginning of the story. That all happens at the beginning of the story. And one of the main other foster kids, what is his name? I couldn't tell you. Cello. Yeah, he's named after an instrument. Cello, he's like in love with his foster sister, Joni, who's the one that loses her baby, and he's trying to do everything to find this baby because he loves the baby too. Not good. I gave this a 2-star. It really should have DNF'd it. I just was not enjoying it. It took me so long to finish this. This is not a long book, y'all. I could have finished this in like a day and a half. It's not even that much longer than that book by Stephen King that I read in a day and a half. Not much longer. It's just not. It did not grab me. It was just so weird and very dark, which is not a problem. I like, I can read the darker topics or whatever. But none of it was handled well. The plot was not really well thought out or handled in a good way. Strange. It did not make much sense. That's what I'm getting to. Just bizarre overall. If I had to say out of all the books I've read this year, even the ones that I've rated 2 stars that either have been like, not that interesting to me, or maybe had really bizarre topics that were like not like something I wouldn't support, but they were entertaining at least. Maybe that doesn't make sense, but this was strange, and it didn't make sense to me, and I didn't like it. I just didn't like it. So would not recommend this one. Sorry. Maybe this will be, if you like sort of like stories. Let me not say that like I shouldn't recommend this to anyone. If you like really vague fantasy and like, left up to your imagination type of thing, maybe this is for you. And I don't even mind an ambiguous story happening, but just give me something that makes sense. And this didn't make sense to me, but it might work for others. So, if that sounds interesting to you, check it out. If not, if you're agreeing with me, you're not gonna like it. Next book I read, 4th book for the month, I read The Magician King. This one I actually did an ebook because I don't own the physical copy and I didn't get it from the library. And this one's a fantasy YA magic, kind of actually adult, really, honestly. This one also got a 2 star for me for a different reason. I actually enjoyed this one a lot more than this. But The Magician's King, the reason why it's got a 2 star for me is because, okay, so let's start off at the beginning. Lev Grossman, I read the first book earlier this year, in January, I believe. January, February, enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. This one, I decided to follow up with it. I'm trying to follow through with reading series, and so I was like, let me go ahead and do the second book to The Magician King. So we're following Quentin again as him and some of the friends from his magical school from the first book, they've all become kings and queens of Fillory, which is the magical land that's basically Narnia, and they've all graduated from their magical school, which is basically Hogwarts, and they're happy, but not really, because they're still complaining and whiny and bratty. Even though Quentin has gotten everything he's wanted, he's in the magical land, he's a king, although his girlfriend did die in the first book. Spoiler, I'm sorry if you've not read the first one, spoilers for The Magician's King. Although he went through some stuff in the first book, he's basically got everything he wants, but he's still complaining, he's still crying, he's still like wanting and searching for something else. A lot less whiny in this book, I'll have to say. First book, almost unbearable. A lot less whiny, but still, it's like, really, you should be really grateful that you're alive, because, after everything that happened in the first book, he's still searching for something. And we're also following Julia in this book, which was interesting. Not my favorite parts. I know a lot of people, especially on Goodreads, were saying like that was some of their favorite parts. Not for me. I'm sorry. It's also very angsty, and maybe I'm just too old. I don't know. But we're following her journey as she becomes a hedge witch, which is like an unofficial way to become a witch. I didn't love this one as much as the other one. The first one, there was some action, and I think there were some really cool parts. I liked some of the action scenes that we get in this, especially in Fillory. I thought those were cool. The dragon in the like stream or wherever they were, that was a cool point. And some of the concepts were cool, like there's like this concept of like older beings that also created the magic. I thought it was a cool point. And of course I love anything that has to do with Narnia, because I love that concept of other worlds and be able to go to other worlds through these pools or through these fountains in this case. And yeah, but I just had an issue with a lot of the stuff. And then there's a really unnecessary R scene in this with one of the characters that just was just so unnecessary. Did not really, I think, add to the plot, and almost was glorified in a way that I didn't think was necessary. So it was just really not good. I think the author needs to really reevaluate if that was necessary. He already wrote it, so I guess he's satisfied with it. But and I'm kind of a glutton for pain, because I do want to read the third book. I want to see where this ends up, because at the end, Quentin had a choice to go off somewhere else, and he didn't actually receive that choice because he made mistakes, and he's still complaining. How is that possible? So that was the fourth one. I'm sorry if I spoiled that for some of you. And that's where my reading journal entries end, because I have not put the last few books, but I not been keeping up with the next book I read is Bride of the Shadow King, and this one was by Sylvia Mercedes. I actually really enjoyed this one. It's a romance book, like fantasy romance. We're following Princess Veraine, I think that's how you pronounce her name, and she's kind of like the shunned princess of her kingdom. She has this special ability that actually causes her quite a bit of pain. It's useful in a sense, but it also is kind of an ability that her family uses, but they don't really want her to be around other people. And her younger sister is more beloved and cherished versus her. She's kind of the shunned one, even though she's the older sister. And her family kind of does not appreciate her. And so her older brother comes and gets her one day and says that her younger sister has been betrothed to the Shadow King, which I believe the species, I guess, is like trolls. And so they have this, they are wanting to form this alliance with them because another group of magical beings is attacking this kingdom that Veraine is part of. And so her family is forming this alliance. And so she goes back to her family home because she's been shunned to a nunnery. And she goes back to her family home to convince her younger sister to get married to the Troll King. And I think he was a troll. Were they trolls? I think they were trolls. And so weird to say. And the king actually falls in love with Veraine, the older sister, the one that's our main female protagonist. But he knows that it'll be more beneficial for him to marry the younger sister because the kingdom, the king actually cares about his younger daughter. He doesn't care about his older daughter. So if he marries the older daughter, the king won't what is the word I'm looking for? Won't honor the treaty, basically. And so the treaty is for the king to use his mages or magicians to help the trolls defeat their enemies, and the trolls are going to help their kingdom defeat their enemies. So they're helping each other, basically, with their different ways that they're trying to survive, basically. Okay, I don't know what's going on with my nose. Start running. Okay, and so then basically something happens where the younger daughter is not able to marry, and so there's something that happens where the older daughter has to go, and there's some kind of double crossing that goes on. Very cool little story. I liked it. Ending wasn't my favorite, but I gave this one, I think, like a 3.5 or 4 stars, so it was pretty solid. I would definitely read the follow-up book whenever it comes out later on this year or next year whenever it comes out. So yeah, good one. The next one I read was Books of Blood by Clive Baker. It's a collection of short stories. I'd actually really enjoyed this one. I read another Clive Baker. Why do I keep saying Baker? Clive Barker. I am tired. Clive Barker Books of Blood. I think I said his name wrong twice. Clive Barker Books of Blood. This is a short story collection by Clive Barker, who also did the Hellraiser series. The Hellraiser movie books are based on his book Hellbound Heart, which I read earlier this year or last year, one time recently. So I wanted to read more from the author. I think I read it last year, so I wanted to read more from the author, and I read this one and I found this at the thrift store actually. So love this cover. And this is quite a few little short stories in here, none that I have heard of before, at least I don't think so. But yeah, my favorite ones were the Midnight Meat Train. That one was good. Basically, yeah, it's I won't say too much about these, but really good one. If you want to read any of these short stories, the ones I would recommend: Midnight Meat Train, The Yattering and the Jack, I enjoyed. Pig Blood Blues was very creepy, and Sex, Death, and Starshine was good as well. Those are my favorite ones. The first one and the last one, short stories in this, were okay, but yeah, very dark. Clive Barker writes some very dark stuff, so be prepared for that. Very creepy, very gory-ish when you're reading it as well. So but yeah, I enjoyed that one. I think I gave it a 3.5 overall because there were a few stories that were kind of like middle ground, okay. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I think my favorite, if I had to pick one favorite, it would probably be, and this is volume 1. If I had to pick one favorite, maybe the Midnight Train was really good. I really did like the Sex, Death, and Starshine one as well, because it was like basically we're following this group of people in a theater, and they're trying to be like the stars, and then this like ghost comes back and kind of takes over, and I really enjoyed that one. That was really good. And then the last book I read this month was Artificial Condition, and this one I really enjoyed. Well, I wouldn't say really enjoyed. Let me get into it. Artificial Condition by Martha Wells is the second book in the Murderbot series, and I really liked the first one, but I didn't love it. And I know a lot of people really, really love that first book and really, really love the series. And for me, I just liked it. I liked it enough. This second book was okay. I like the basic story of it. So we're following this murderbot that has gone rogue. Basically, he has like disconnected himself, and he's like can do what he wants. He doesn't have to follow basically the commands really so much, but he can't really, if he gets found out, it could be really bad for him. But he just wants to really just watch TV and like do what he wants to do and like hang out. He's not really doing anything to anyone really that much, but he goes undercover basically as a altered human or augmented human that has been like altered, and he's trying to figure out what really happened from the first book, and also just figuring out a way to basically do whatever he wants, and he takes on new clients. So we're kind of following him through the book. I think I will probably go ahead and read the third book as well. I know there's plenty more of these. They're really short, and I read it as an audiobook, so it was very fast. It was a very fast read. And it's the last thing I read this month, and I did enjoy it, but I wouldn't say I liked it as much as the first one. I think I rated the first one a 4-star. This one I would rate maybe 3 stars. So enjoyable, but kind of just middle of the road for me, and definitely really, really like sci-fi-ish, you know, not like hard sci-fi, but like sci-fi enough. Enjoyed it, but like I said, wasn't an all-time fave for me. I will continue probably with the series, maybe reading one more, because I do really, really like the character of the Murderbot. It's just the story for me wasn't that exciting. So, yes, that is it, you guys. That's all the books I read for the month of June. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below. Did you read anything in June? If you haven't, I'm encouraging you, pick up something for July so we can talk about it. And if you enjoyed this video, think about subscribing to the channel, as I do book content here and there on my channel. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will check you guys out in the next video very, very soon. Stay safe. Adios.